Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And the SNP is an unmitigated disaster. It's an ongoing car crash, and the people of Scotland are suffering. We've shown many times on this channel about the sexualisation of children, about the gender reassignment that is putting thousands of children down a one-way street. They're now looking at making the lives of women in Scotland incredibly dangerous by opening up safe spaces to men. And that's not to mention all the other problems, like the billions lost on the ferry fiasco, or the ongoing problem with drugs, with crime, with the economy in the toilet. Meanwhile, the dwarf is nowhere to be seen. Well, actually, she is. She's striding the globe like a behemoth in international and diplomatic circles, attending meetings to which she's not invited, and having to hang around outside with photo opportunities with the catering staff. Meanwhile, instead of attending to her problems at home, she's pledging millions upon millions of pounds to foreign nationals, simply because she needs to look important. Well, the chickens are coming home to roost. Another fiasco is brewing. NHS Scotland has just released figures showing it has the worst waiting times ever. And the man responsible is still in his job. Well, he can't be fired if Sturgeon is halfway round the world on a piss-up. Let's look at the article. Now, this is from the Scottish Daily Record. Not a paper I often get, I must be honest, but it was flashed up, and I thought this actually deserves to be highlighted. Nicola Sturgeon is under pressure to sack Hamza Yousaf over the worst ever A&E waiting times. In the week ending October 30th, just 63% of patients were treated and either admitted, transferred or discharged within target time. Over a third of all people who go to a hospital in Scotland are not seen or dealt with in the approved record, in the approved time. A third of all Scots hospital visits break the rules. Nicola Sturgeon is facing calls to sack Hamza Yousaf after Scotland's hospital recorded their worst ever accident emergency waiting times. She cannot fire him because box ticking. He's one of the few non-whites in the SNP, and if you fire him, it looks very bad on the optics. So he can be as incompetent as he likes, and he is. And his job is safe and secure simply because of the colour of his skin. According to the latest Public Health Scotland statistics for the final week of October, more than 9,600 patients waited more than 4 hours. Nearly 10,000 people. Now, you got to think the population of Scotland is not that great, given its land mass. I mean, it's a massive country. It's got about 5 million people in it. Half the number of people live in the entire part of Scotland than live more or less in London. And so how many of them are going to be in hospital any time? And nearly 10,000 of them had to wait more than 4 hours. It's a disgrace. And don't even get me started on the NHS in general, but this is appalling. In the week ending October 30th, just 63% of patients were treated and admitted within the target time. The Scottish Government's target is for 95% of those attending A&E to be dealt with within 4 hours. They're not even close. They're not even close to being close. Figures showed that in the week ending October the 30th, 26,000 patients who went to A&E, the 4-hour target was missed for nearly 10,000 of them. There were 3,393 patients who were in A&E for 8 hours or more, and with nearly 1,500 were there for a minimum of 12 hours before being dealt with. If you are waiting 12 hours in a hospital, there is something seriously wrong. But that's not to worry, because millions upon millions of your pounds in Scotland, they've been pledged to help foreigners, not Scots people who pay the tax. But that's up to you. In the wake of the latest data, Health Secretary Hamza Yousaf issued a plea for people only to go to A&E if their condition is emergency. Well, that's generally what happens. That's why it's called accident and emergency. What he's saying is, I've screwed up so badly and I've let the hospitals in Scotland get so deteriorated and so awful under my watch that I can't actually can't allow people to go to hospital. That's what he's saying. We all have a part to play in reducing pressure on services this winter. Well, you could play your part by putting money into your NHS. Because the NHS isn't Britain's NHS. It's Scotland. It's a devolved power. This is all down to Sturgeon. Ultimately down to Sturgeon alone, because she does not have she will not brook opposition. She says what goes. Nobody dare object to what she says. So everything that happens in Scotland is down to that one tiny little shit. And so your hospitals are just falling apart because of her. So that's where the pressure on the services come from. Not from the people using the services, but from her pissing off and spending millions of your money instead of putting it into your hospitals. Labour's health spokesman, Jackie Bailey, not that Labour are any better, go to Wales, NHS run in Wales by the Labour Party, just as bad, has called on Nicola Sturgeon to sack Yousaf following the latest statistics. The SNP's race to the bottom must be stopped before things get any worse for our A&E department, she said. Yeah, I suspect you need to look at the Welsh A&E, also Labour run. It is the second worst in Britain, second only to Scotland. It's funny that, isn't it? But that's what happens when you keep getting socialists in. She said, for months, Scottish Labour has been calling on the Scottish Government to get a handle on this crisis, and yet we're continually left with record-breaking failures and nothing but empty words and endless excuses from this hopeless health secretary. But he's not actually allowed to do anything. As I say, it's a one-person state in Scotland, and that person is the dwarf, Nippy. She says what goes. Nobody dare stand up to her. But he is unsackable. As to the real winter crisis approaches, staff are on their knees with exhaustion and they cannot be left to face this crisis alone. Well, perhaps not spending millions on foreigners would help. What do you think, Sturgeon? What do you think? Patients are going to have worse health outcomes or even die as a result of not being seen quickly. She doesn't care about that because dying Scotsmen do not build up her image on the world stage, only spending taxpayers' money making empty pledges to prop up corrupt governments elsewhere. That's what gets her kudos amongst the leaders, and she really desperately wants to hang on to that power. She is an initiate, and she is desperate to be, eating off this. At the moment, she's licking the scraps off the floor of the high table. She wants to be eating at the high table. But actually, she'll never be at the high table because Scotland is not an independent country. And that is why she wants independence. She wants access to the top table, and the people of Scotland will pay the price. The people of Scotland are paying the price. Scots will be wondering why, as the evidence builds, the First Minister seems to turn a blind eye to Humza Yousaf's failure. It is the First Minister to sack. It's time for the First Minister to sack her failing health secretary and put patients' needs first. Like I say, patients' needs are of zero concern to Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon's needs are the first and only thing in that woman's mind. Scottish Conservative health spokesman Dr Sandesh Gillane said the deplorable waits were a symptom of the SNP's catastrophic handling of the NHS. He said, just when you think Humza Yousaf's catastrophic stewardship of the NHS can't get any worse, fresh stats come out to prove you wrong. And there's the most unfireable man in Scotland. Gillane said that the latest record low A&E figures are deplorable. He added there was fresh evidence that the figures could actually underestimate the scale of the crisis. What isn't in doubt is that thousands of patients across Scotland continue to suffer unacceptable waits at our A&E departments. Patients that could easily be you or your loved ones, and needless deaths will have occurred as a result. But hey, it doesn't matter, Scotland. Your leaderine is standing in Egypt, as I say, having pictures taken with the waiting staff to show how important she is and how important the rest of the world consider her to be, because she hasn't got the lanyard of invite. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. It becomes increasingly clear that Nicola Sturgeon treats the SNP as her personal device. It is her only way of ensuring that Nicola Sturgeon succeeds. This is why the push for independence. She wants to be a national leader. She wants to have meetings all across the world, rubbing shoulders with all the great and good. She wants to attend those meetings, eat those meals. But that isn't going to happen. Firstly, even if Scotland ever did become an independent country, it could never do so under the appalling stewardship of that tiny little squirt. And secondly, even if that happened, even if she became a national leader, she wouldn't be eating at the top table. She'd be third tier at best. She'd be on the same size table as Venezuela, Burkina Faso, on a good day, Malawi. She wouldn't be up there with the United States, China, France and Germany. Because Scotland's economy is too small. You've only got 5 million people. You've got 3 exports, and Iron Brew's one of them. and your internal costs are so high that you'd be bankrupt even with the oil. This has been shown time and time again. The only way Scotland would work is if it had massively high income tax. But of course, the moment that happens, everyone in Scotland goes, sod that, and goes south. I mean, one of the biggest employers in Scotland in terms of money is the nuclear submarines at Fastlane. They'd have to leave. So you're going to lose all those high-tech jobs. Of course, Cumbernauld Tax Office would have to come south. You'd lose all those jobs. She lives in cloud cuckoo land. And of course, then she couldn't deny having won independence. Independence for Shetland Isles. And with that goes a lot of the oil. This woman cares not one jot about Scotland, nor the Scottish people. All she cares about is making Nicola Sturgeon the best she can ever be. Unfortunately, the best she can ever be is a town mayor. Anyway, I shall finish there. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notification of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay out of hospital, and goodbye.